So what's the role of a live sound engineer? Now, if you do your job really, really well, then people should hear just a great sounding mix with no feedback or distractions, taking them out of that experience of the concert or the speech or the sermon. You must be able to know how it's all supposed to sound. Like if it's a concert, it should sound like a record, right? If it's a speech or a sermon, it should sound like a full, clear reproduction of the spoken voice, not thin or faint or full of feedback and so on. If you have several people speaking on stage, then you should be able to blend their levels, even muting the voices that aren't being used at that particular instance. If nothing else, you should reproduce basically what's going up on the stage and blend it, tweak it and massage it so that it sounds really great to your listening audience. Now, having said that, there are gremlins that will haunt you. Things like sound sources that don't come up on your mixing board, microphones that squeal with feedback, speakers that don't work. A good sound engineer is one who can quickly diagnose any problem and know in his or her gut how to make an educated guess about how to tackle that problem. You've probably heard this story, right? It's a story of Henry Ford being handed a $10,000 bill for work done at his factory. The story goes like this. Nikola Tesla visited Henry Ford at his factory, which was having some kind of technical difficulty. Ford asked Tesla if he could identify the problem area. Tesla looked around, walked up to a wall of boiler plates and made a small X in chalk on one of the plates. Ford was thrilled and told him to send him an invoice. The bill arrived for $10,000, and Ford asked for a breakdown. Tesla sent another invoice indicating $1 charge for marking the X and $9,999 for knowing where to put it. And it's probably an apocryphal story, but the message is a valid one. If you're mixing a band, everything's going fine, then it's pretty easy to mix, but you really earn your paycheck when something goes wrong. Now, one other thing I'll mention in terms of what a live engineer does is this. A really good sound engineer must understand what makes good sound and then know how to reproduce it. In other words, he or she should have a pretty good understanding of music and what makes a good mix and the technical engineer type stuff to kind of make that happen. I'm a musician first and an engineer second, and I actually don't quite understand how engineers cannot be musicians, but I tell you what, there are plenty of great sound guys here who do all this without being musicians. I just find knowing that how music is arranged gives me a better understanding of how it all comes together on a mixing board. Now, having said that, you don't have to be a musician to know how to mix. But I probably would recommend that you at least start hanging around with musicians and ask them to teach you what sounds good. Maybe take a music appreciation class, anything that will help you gain an appreciation and kind of understanding of this thing that we're trying to reproduce through your sound system. Live sound is really where art meets technology, and you really need to speak both languages. The best sound guys I know are kind of like a diplomat who translates between the artistic world, all the musicians, and the technical world here. I'll speak a lot about this on this subject, but for now I just want you to know that a great sound engineer will hear a musician say something like, it sounds kind of mushy, and then take that non-technical idea to the console and then fix that problem. One of my pet peeves is a bunch of nerdy engineers making fun of a musician who says mushy instead of low or mid-range, right? If a musician says mush, then the engineer sees that as the 200 hertz range. Then you need to know how to translate that as we deal with people as well as equipment, right?